gnarly.
I wish I could remember who everybody is here. Who's number 2?
Not me. Brenna, I think.
Fishing.
Okay, cool. So I'm alive. Okay. Cool.
Oh, it's on.
Yeah.
We're on live meets.
Hi guys.
Hi.
Introduce everyone.
Welcome to Make
I can't remember everyone's names. I'm so bad at this.
That's why they're rating
We
you.
can introduce
Well,
I
ourselves.
need cue cards.
Yeah, from left to right, we got Birch Cooper.
You're on the very left.
I'm a host. Hey, Earl Rothstein, Birch Cooper, Brenna
Murphy.
and
Stefan Barniche.
Stefan
Stefan
Barniche.
Barniche.
Dhyan.
And Mike. Yeah. Nice.
Smooth.
So, who's talking first? Earl.
Yes.
What are you doing in Bangkok?
I live here. Come on.
Oh yeah.
We've got some visual artists, like fascinating. Stefan, you're based in Bangkok. You own My Son Clothes.
For a month only. For a month only.
1 month.
1 month. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Oh, you're doing a residency.
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
And you're 3D modelists, right?
We do a lot of 3D modeling. Yeah, our practice is pretty varied, but that is an important part of it.
Additionally, all 3 of you are experimental sound artists as well as visual artists.
That's true.
I guess let's first talk with you. Well, where did you guys start? How did you guys meet each other? I guess you two are a duo.
Yeah, we work together. We've worked together since about 2004.
2007.
I'm sorry, 2007. Yeah, in Portland, Oregon. We started an art collective together in 07, 08, something like that.
With a larger group of people. And we worked with them for 4 years under the name Oregon Painting Society. And then when that ended, we began this duo, which we also consider an art collective, called MSHR, which is a flexible acronym, so that we can apply different meanings over time.
What are some of the acronyms you've used
Well,
so far?
we have an album that's being announced tomorrow, which is called Measure Signal Hybrid Recursion.
So it's meant to be like a recursive acronym, actually, since MESHR, or MSHR, we pronounce it optionally as MESHR, is in the acronym.
So that's one instance.
Have you used other ones before?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
Mind Synthesis Hallway Reflector.
Yeah, that was the project before this. It was a 30-minute animation and sound piece.
And then we did a lot
At least
of
on
backwards.
VHS.
That's right. Wow, you did your research. I'm impressed. Yeah, but I don't know. Yeah, we don't always use name projects as MSHR, but it's sort of just the idea that of a name as a sort of modular container for meaning. Yeah.
And you guys are about to leave Bangkok, and you guys are going to be going to Jogja,
That's right. Yeah.
Indonesia.
Yeah.
How long will you guys be staying there for?
For 6 weeks.
Yeah, our occasion for being in Asia is that we had a Japanese tour and some dates in Melbourne, and then we're only traveling now. We had been living in New York, but we sort of accidentally almost slipped into this permanent residency and tour phase, but we had some unscheduled time, so we had heard that Bangkok and Jeju were cool cities with interesting scenes, so taking the opportunity to see it.
You guys going to be collecting with the noise bombing dudes in Jogja?
Yeah, we're definitely going to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
We're not playing though. But
Oh, you don't have any shows lined up yet?
no,
Not
nothing
lined up,
lined up.
but maybe when we get there, we'll see.
Yeah.
I mean, when we came here, we ended up playing 3 shows as soon as we got here. So hopefully we'll meet some people there and play some shows quickly also.
Yeah.
But otherwise, we're just interested to meet people and see other people play.
Cool. Yeah, your practice kind of involves like so many different things. Like you guys make like circuits, make your own like modular synthesizer things, do like things with lights and like sculptures. Like watching, I mean, when you guys performed here, it was like the animation you guys had did that kind of accompanied your work. It almost wasn't referencing anything from reality anymore. It's like it was just like it was. I kept thinking like, what is this? What is this? And I was like, no, it's not like the right way to look at it. It's not really, it's not really referenced to this reality. It was like just its own thing. It wasn't trying to be something.
Thank you. Yeah, I think the two things maybe that we sort of reference from physical reality are just like gravity and light. We do put things on the floor often, which you wouldn't have to, but...
But it's true, we are kind of trying to make a world that references itself. Like, that has its own kind of logic.
Yeah, definitely abstract sculpture.
Fractal.
Yeah,
We do use
recursion is
recursion.
a pretty common theme, but not like strict mathematical fractals.
And I noticed that your shapes were mainly isometric, you know?
Oh yeah,
Isometric perspective.
Yes.
That's true, yeah.
Very interesting, because I did some drawing the same way, isometric. Yeah.
Oh.
And so it was the kind of main structure, isometric. Everything is isometric in your...
Yeah, we almost always just use isometric, but actually we just made a new video that's being released tomorrow where I use perspective instead of isometric to break the rules a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love isometric.
I think sometimes perspective works well if it's sort of like conveying like a POV, and then like sometimes if we're just trying to show a sculpture as well as possible, then isometric feels like a good choice.
As you said, it's a sort of interesting trouble between sort of no references to reality, but this kind of isometric perspective makes me sort of, I understand, because I have a sort of point of view, but it's what it's coming from. I don't know. It's a sort of troubling effect.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Visually, very very interesting, but not only visually. It was a very the sensation was perturbing. I don't know if you...
Stefan, your work is very grounded in surroundings and in a context and in reality, right?
Yes, the context is a sort of important word in my work, because I like to be... We were talking about suitcases and gears we are transporting in flight and everything. My dream would be to use only materials that is in the context.
Where you travel.
Yeah. Just maybe some contact mic and some field recordings and just a phone.
It's art that you could only make in that place.
Yes, maybe with people, interaction, collaboration. Sort of minimal way of working. Backpacker and very light. We were talking about the English and
Very convenient too.
Yeah, I was surprised how big your synth is, and that you decide to like travel with a DIY synth, because it takes so much space to when you build your own synthesizer like that.
Yeah, actually, what we played with here is not even like our full setup. yeah, it's kind of perverse, but it's just like, I guess so much of our practice has hinged on like this idea of like building it, that it's like that's just what we sort
It's
of like.
part of what you do now.
Well, it's just what our music was, you know.
And it does fit within the limits of what we can carry, like on on the airplane and everything. So we
what?
reduce it into that. Yeah, so it is possible.
And the custom mod, it really, it's designed to fit into the aesthetic of the projections that you put up.
Well,
Yeah,
actually,
we normally never use video projections. This was
No?
the only time that we've done a performance like that, because we didn't have a power converter here, so we couldn't do our normal set. So we made up this set last minute using video that we already had. Normally, we have done a few other performances with video, but we always will do like live video mixing, and but here it was kind of like we're showing basically a screening of a video we already made, and then also playing music along with it, which is something we wouldn't normally perform with, but it felt like we wanted to share the video here, and it seemed like it worked well with the setup here, since there's a nice projection here, a nice projector, but not a power converter, so it just worked.
our normal music uses a lot of feedback between light and sound, and so that's sort of like the fundamental aspect of it. But yeah, and so we did something different here.
What kind of feedback?
Just like all the parameters of the synthesis are controlled by light sensors, and then all the
like
lights are controlled by sound input.
You use like diodes, like LSDs?
Everything's based in LSD, yeah.
Photoresistors.
Yeah, we do, yeah. And then like light organ circuits, basically, to turn on the lights from the sound.
And then how did you make the plate for your, it's like a mirror plate?
The synthesizers?
Sorry, I'm like so interested in the synths.
Oh yeah, just laser cutting. Yeah, like we used to...
Mirrored plexiglass, and so we just laser cut it to fit, where the plugs need to go through.
Yeah, we used to like do it all like with drills and, by hand, but that gets kind of like a sort of melted aesthetic, and then the laser cutter is just much easier, and
we had a residency with a laser
precise.
cutter,
Cool.
so we just
got addicted.
laser cut a lot there.
Nice. Use the tools that you have.
Yeah.
And, go ahead.
Now, after Doctor, where would you guys be going?
We're gonna go to Bali for a few weeks, and then we will go to Chapel Hill, North Carolina, to do a performance at
UNC.
the university there. And then we'll go to New York for a week, do a show there, and then I think we'll go to the UK and do a tour, but it's not quite set up yet. And then we'll have a residency in Finland, in Turku, at Titanic, a sound art space, for 3 months.
Yeah, and then we're supposed to go to Kampala, Uganda for Nyege Nyege Fest and a residency there.
What is Nyege Nyege Fest?
It's a label and a residency program and a festival in Kampala. It's a great label that puts out a lot of music.
Yeah, they're doing really interesting work. I really recommend checking it out. And then the festivals seems really, really interesting as well.
So you know Cedric Freeman?
No,
Okay.
you don't.
Is that someone involved in it?
Yeah. He did a Nyege Nyege in La Réunion too.
Oh,
wow.
really?
Yeah, just a month ago. Yeah.
Oh.
It was a kind of experimental festival.
Cool.
Mm.
Yeah.
I guess
Yeah,
we'll
we
meet
only
them.
know Arlen.
Okay. Nyege Nyege. Cool.
Then our
That's
plans run out.
But that's like
so-
a year from now, almost.
Small
so-
world, but not that small.
Yeah.
So
We were talking about the experimental scene, called like this, and I was surprised that there was not so much people involved in experimental music in Bangkok, I guess, or what?
Yeah, I mean, it's relatively small scene, I suppose. It's not surprising to me because I was outside Tokyo for 3 years, and there I expected it to be like quite a big scene, and it was also really small.
Okay.
So maybe it's just that's the nature of the.
Small everywhere.
Yeah.
I think it is small everywhere, though.
I think it is. Just
Okay.
I think a lot of musicians also do it do experimental as a hobby.
Yeah, a lot of people
when
stay
they have a
home
second.
too. Yeah, I think maybe the genre, if it's a genre, kind of lends to like self-experimentation as well, and like staying home and not being concerned about playing out.
About
Like,
judgment.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
maybe that's part of it. I don't know.
Okay.
It's just not
We haven't
very
been to
popular.
Reunion Island yet.
Maybe
You
it's
go
not
there,
popular,
and
yeah.
everyone's like an experimental.
It's the nature of it. Yeah, but you know the word experimental, it's just a word.
But it's a strange
one-
word too.
Yeah.
It's a strange word. I find that most experimental music is not actually experimental either.
Of course.
It just doesn't fit too well into other genres, so people call it experimental because
miscellaneous.
maybe they haven't found words to
Yeah.
describe it yet or labels to put on it yet. So everything that is like misunderstood or not labeled yet just gets dumped into the
Yeah.
experimental box. And
Mhm.
yeah, so it's a bit strange. Yeah.
We're talking visual arts, and same in experimental cinema. Form of cinema is just a form of cinema. It's not special. Experimental cinema is not a genre. Is because some directors are not in the mainstream, so they put it under the label of experimental. That's why.
Similar, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, it's strange.
It's
But me too. Like, I also don't know how to like describe like what I like to do sometimes. So I kind of default to saying experimental as well because I'm just like maybe it's easier to say, or like I don't know how to like go into what it is. Yeah.
We should
Maybe
come
out
up
of-
with a
out
new
of
word.
convenience, yeah, a new word. Just
It's cool when people manage to coin a new term for what they're doing and it sticks. If you can have agency over that, but
When
it's
I-
really hard. I think.
in high school, there was one kid who kept like he tried to get the word wizard to stick. Like he's like, oh, that's like he used it as like cool or like interesting. Just be like, oh, that's
Bizarre.
wizard, man. And he tried for like 2 years, I think, but like nobody else would use the word.
Nice try.
Wizard is a pretty cool word, though.
It's a pretty sick word.
Let's bring it back.
Use it. Yeah.
What do you? Yeah, if people ask you to describe what you do,
It depends on who it is I'm talking to, I guess. Usually when it's just like random person that I don't have any like cultural crossover with of like a specific things, then we will say like, oh, we're musicians and artists. And then if they're like, oh, what kind of music, we usually
What
say...
instruments do you play?
Yeah.
Well, we usually just say electronic music.
Which is
Because then
a
it's like,
ridiculous
okay.
answer, of course, but
Actually, on my way here, my motorbike, this guy like waiting next to me at the light was like having a chat. He's like, "Hey, how much did you buy your bike for?" And I was like, "What? Oh, and he's like, "I got it for like 20,000." He's like, "Oh, you know, there's an auction down here. You can get them really cheap." He's like, "You can get a 250." But then he's like, "What's in your bag?" And I was like, "Well, I'm gonna play some music." And same, I told him I play electronic music, and he's like, "Oh, like trance?" And I was
Yeah.
like,
He's like, yeah.
you might go into a trance. I don't know.
Like at the airport, they always, when they see our mixers and stuff, they're like, oh, DJ.
Yeah, yeah.
They're like, yeah.
Yeah, it's the
Well,
simplest way of.
now modular synths are so popular, people at airports are starting to just recognize them as
Sometimes.
synthesizers.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
sometimes they'll get like, oh, cool synth.
It's
Like
the
from the
modular
airport.
jokes that like it looks like a bomb, but I don't know anybody that's ever had
No.
any problems
We've
with
never
it.
had a problem.
It is the bomb. That's what I
Actually,
tell them at the
It's not
airport.
a bomb.
it's a
Yeah.
modular bomb.
Yeah.
But that is that's why I was asking you about the size and space, because that is one major concern for like modular people. Always is concerned with case size, carry-on,
Yeah.
weight limits and stuff.
Sure,
It's
yeah.
always like modular cases are like almost designed around that restriction of like being as big as they can, but still carry-on-able. Yeah.
Totally. We don't really use cases. We just wrap them in blankets. So that makes them a little bit like
Duct tape
lighter
the-
and
duct tape
smaller.
around the
Pretty
blanket.
No, we
We
just
have
wrap
these
it.
like fuzzy blankets, and actually I feel like people always think I'm carrying a baby when I get on the airplane, because it just looks like this like fuzzy blanket that I'm carrying.
Like we stick it in our backpack, but then if they won't let us take on the backpack because it's too large or too heavy, then we just carry the synth wrapped in a swaddled
Baby
in a blanket.
blanket.
Yeah. Because like the case would add so much weight and size, like,
True.
and we'd have to like figure out how to build it. So
Sure, maybe that's
And
the
pack it and unpack
that's the
it.
solution, is
Case
like
takes
taking
some
all your
space and
modules
stuff.
out and putting them in a trash bag or something.
we're actually pretty close to that.
We carry the light bulbs.
we
We
carry-
used to carry the light bulbs in a trash bag.
We used to
always
play with
self-
all incandescent light bulbs, and we literally carried them in a garbage bag.
I can't
On
believe
tour,
did that.
we just had this black garbage
For
bag full of
years.
incandescent light bulbs. So we were just like shoving it in the overhead.
Slowly breaking over the course of the tour.
But they really break a lot less than you would think.
But now we use LEDs.
They were the round kind.
Yeah, just like
And-
bulbs.
yeah,
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Thinking,
Just the
Just like
that
old-fashioned.
pear shaped.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking the globe shaped ones are
Oh.
really strong, but
Yeah.
off topic.
I mean,
No, we
I
could talk
mean,
about this for
Christmas lights
hours.
every day.
Talk about light bulbs.
I mean,
Actually, light bulbs
any-
is one of my favorite topics.
any glass light bulb is not
That's what
going to
we're
be
here for.
that strong. It might bounce on concrete once or something, but it's not going to really withstand very many drops.
So we switched to LEDs because they don't, that's plastic, so they don't break, but they flash on and on, like, so the sound that they make for our set is more like, whereas the
Staccato.
incandescents
Bit
were more like, like,
Oh yeah.
so that's why we didn't want to switch to LEDs for a long time, but finally we just embraced the different aesthetic.
Ah.
I like it more actually now.
They're brighter.
And they're also not hot, so you don't
Yeah.
like burn your
We
hand.
used to
or,
always
like,
melt the plexiglass of the other stuff that we had.
Mm.
So, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Can you still get incandescent bulbs in the States?
You can,
You can,
yeah.
but I think they are phasing them out, but not as hardcore as in Europe. They ended it.
Yeah, in Australia you can't anymore.
Oh.
You can
Oh,
only get
really?
like from a long time ago, I think like 2007, or you can only get them if it's like halogen. It's like the closest one. They're like just 20% more efficient, but not like they've somehow managed to keep those ones.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, one good thing I heard is that the Trump administration is rolling back the policy about trying to switch to LEDs. So
So
don't
people-
worry, we'll still have incandescents available in the U.S.
So people will use more
Americans
like
can care less about energy efficiency,
Yeah.
but also real estate is such an obsession that certain houses are designed to look better under a certain light. That many real estate agents, I'm sure, would be very put out if many of these colonial or
like the house has to be lit
style
by
houses.
candles.
Yeah.
Right, you're right. Basically,
Yeah.
like, or something similar enough that dim and low. Otherwise, it's just
Wow.
imagine having like.
It's interesting.
Well, then it's like when you go out into the country and there's like the porch light, that attracts all the flies.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
love those things.
They're very nice when you're touring, taking people around the house.
Yeah.
It's interesting what you say about the reaction of the speed of the light turning on and off, because then like the the physical material becomes like a sound filter, basically, or it becomes like a low pass gate or something. Like that's interesting. Just by changing this is not just the material, but the mechanics of the physical. But yeah, because you were saying like your work is all about like translation. It's not really translation, feedback. Yeah, between like light and sound.
Yeah.
But then also like physical medium and sound.
Yeah. Actually, though, it doesn't sound too binary because the photoresistors smooth it out a lot because they have a relatively slow response, and
but it's
different ones
somewhat
have
more binary than
different
incandescent.
responses. Yeah, and they're also brighter, which I actually prefer.
The LEDs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see your show at Decomium, but I heard like you were wearing sunglasses, and people were like, "Why are they wearing sunglasses?"
Because we're cool.
And then people found out why you were wearing sunglasses.
Yeah. We had a power converter for that show. So.
Do you carry? What kind of lights were you using?
We're using those,
LEDs?
like the LED feedback system, and then we're also using strobe lights to.
But the
control
strobe lights are
sound.
not LED because we haven't been able to find an LED strobe light that is like bright enough and that doesn't have a lag. So we are still using these ones that are I guess they're incandescent. They're not LED, but they're
tubes.
really heavy but they are really bright and really like you can control the speed really well.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's a tube.
Whatever
Yeah,
the
this should be
standard tube in a strobe is. Yeah.
We want to switch to something lighter, and also it sucks so much power. Those ones, like we have blown the power.
Really?
Many times
Yeah.
during our set.
Yeah, just like the fuse flips, the breaker flips in the room or whatever. Set ends abruptly.
Those guys again.
Yeah. We also always use, more in the past, we would always use fog machines. And then we had like the fire department actually called on us a handful of times, like maybe more than 5 times.
In our lives, yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of exciting.
Smoke, right?
Too much smoke.
Yeah.
Did you tell
Turns
them?
out the adage is wrong.
It's not
There's
a
smoke,
fire,
there
it's
isn't
fire.
always fire.
Yeah. Well, it's fog. We don't call it a smoke machine.
You know?
Well,
I guess
Some
you
people
don't.
do.
No, yeah.
if there's smoke, there's a problem.
If you can smell it, it's a problem.
Yeah.
I'm curious to hear about your sculptures. Like, it seems like we at home you have like a big setup. You showed me a picture of.
Actually, the main setup is not so big, but it's sort of hut I built, and on the hut there's many mics and speakers not so far from mics. So sometimes it makes a feedback depending of the people who can. And I took the signal back to my looper and then transform and pitching up, down, and erased, and yeah, like a moving sculpture, interacting with people. Yeah, sort of. I'm imagine sort of. We were talking about NASA, spacecraft and a spaceship, and I'm trying to make communication with the outside, but maybe with myself, I don't know. That's why sometimes I improvise some speeches, and do you hear me? I'm just right here, but I cannot see you. Where are you? This kind of psychological way of doing
A
stuff.
dialogue with oneself.
Yeah, and people just nearby. That's kind of way I do my recent work. And it's all about, as you said, the context, because I built this hut maybe for 3 hours with my tools, and some screws, and only with the material that I found around. And,
Yeah, that definitely goes with all the
yeah,
the mannequins that are used for
Okay.
tattoo display.
Like an emergency project, it must be just now today, and then tomorrow it's over. I like this kind of ephemeral work. It's from my one time. If I had time more, it would be maybe bigger with the other people. That's why my next residency will be to how do you say to augmenter augment like module, small module, individual module, but then I can invite people to make more modules about like Legos playing, like to collect speeches of people, field recordings. It's sort of experimental laboratory, and everything is with the mobile. We can push it. Yeah.
On wheels or?
Yes.
Cool.
Big wheels. Yeah. Yeah.
Where do you push it between?
Inside, outside. It will be the next project.
Like, would you push it like from one building to another building?
Maybe the project would be in the street.
Where is this going to be in Reunion
Yeah,
Island?
yeah.
Where?
For the next year.
Where?
Reunion Island, the place I live. Yeah.
Lives in an island in the Indian Ocean, yeah?
Indonesia.
Kind of near, what do you say, Indonesia?
Mauritius Island or
Madagascar.
Madagascar.
Right.
Small French colony, actually. And this is the technical aspect, but in the project gives me the opportunity to speak about identities and post-colonialism and kind of political stuff. And the sound is a tool for me, a very powerful tool and very inspiring tool. From experiences you can get that, because I was in the commune. So the first time I saw your show, I was very impressed, and the kind of impression that I remember is maybe the thing was alive. It was alive, but alive. You like light was a material, not only a technical thing, interacting with on off. It was more subtle.
Yeah, that's the goal for using feedback for us. I think that's like it's why it's compelling for people, is that it's like alive.
Yeah, it's alive.
Yeah,
It's alive.
yeah.
I like the idea that when you, with your project, when you get back to Reunion, that you're sort of making like a foundation, brick by brick, that inviting people. Like,
Yeah. That's why on the side of my hut, there's I'm beginning to invent a sort of how do you say, game and a board game with Legos, and people can. It's free. You can make some construction, and each construction I took a picture, and this is the beginning of maybe another project in architecture maybe, and building houses, building emergency houses and stuff like this. Maybe there is a crisis about immigrants and everything. So maybe there's some connection. And
that's a recurring theme in your work.
Sorry?
That's a recurring theme in your work. Not just architecture, but the homes that people that aren't quite long for this world. That they're fragile because the people who live in them are in extreme poverty.
We are fragile. But it's home. It's not only a architecture building, but for me it's a sort of how do you say it? Symbolism for we are the home.
Right.
We are the sanctuary.
We are fragile, but the idea, in my mind, the idea of a home is what protects from how fragile we are.
Yeah.
That the home is literally a safe house.
Yeah.
That it's a refuge that you go to recharge.
And also the home, as I made some stickers and some drawing projects, is kind like a game of construction. You know, we can home, you can make different shapes, adapting for more people or only solo people. That's why the spaceship is kind of a cool representation for me, because
An interstellar mobile home.
yeah, maybe. But Earth planet is a spaceship for me, you know. So it's
Spaceship
like
Earth.
microcosm, big and bigger. Yeah.
What's the you did like some sort of UFO project in India?
Same. I think it was just a different combination of the home, but between stickers and on the street, like stencils and
Right.
with kids. And
And it creates a sculpture that hangs.
yeah.
In
And
there.
also it was a very spontaneous project, because I went to Dharavi in Mumbai with no idea, just going make some photos, and then I met some kids and proposed them to do a sort of art project with drawings. I show them my homes and they said, yes, cool, let's make some stickers, some stencils. And then in Dharavi, we went to do sort of, I don't know how to call it, performance, installation. Or
An opening.
yeah, it was an opening, open. So people was
Very open.
Yeah.
Like in the middle of the street.
And I gave my camera to a little boy, and then he took photos spontaneously, and the result was a small fanzine. The pictures were very interesting to see how the kid.
The perspective.
Yeah, very interesting. I took some photos of my food, the sky. It was very powerful stuff. I just printed everything and make a fanzine without any editing. Yeah. Brut. Yeah.
Cool.
I really like the concept of like Earth being like a spaceship or something like that. Like where do you think, is there like a destination you think we're going to? Like where, like what's the?
Well, I think it's a useful idea just in terms of being like a zoomed out perspective on like what's going on, you know, like we're on this self-contained capsule moving through space, you know. I mean, but
And don't let one's ego get
or just like don't trash it too bad, maybe.
Well, Terence McKenna always says
Oh yeah.
the Earth is the cradle of humanity, but you have to leave the cradle eventually.
Different metaphor, but, but yeah. I don't know. I mean, if Earth is a spaceship, then what isn't a spaceship too? If you're like being really literal, but
literally everything's in space. Yes.
That's why I really like the modular guys, because like kids in a spaceship.
That is kind of like one of the first things you build when you've got Lego, is that if you don't have wheels to make a car, then you make a triangle shape or any, like, it just fly it around.
There's no limitation of movement. Yeah, I remember my first time like sitting in front of a Moog Voyager, and it was like at my friend's house, and he like went to bed, and I just like sitting in the darkness with the Voyager on, and so it's just this blue light coming out from the control
Like a cockpit.
panel. It's so beautiful. Really nice. Yeah, I think that propelled me into playing with synths more. Yeah. feels like a vessel of exploration for sure.
Exploration is the word. Yeah.
I wonder if like sort of like the sort of imagery of like the cockpit or the console, like in like like ships or like real like jets or something, or like in Star Trek, you know, that sort of like console scene. I wonder like how much that like sort of like feeds this sort of like paradigm of like the synthesizer design or like fascination, or and also how like how that paradigm will be replaced, like what it will be replaced with, like, you know,
iPads, just a wall of iPads.
or just inside your own mind, just like
Maybe more like gestures than actually physical tactile switches and
maybe
controls.
or just like laying on a foam pad twitching, and it's all just happening in your mind. Just laying on some filthy
Voice
filthy
controls.
mattress.
A lot of people. That's how they don't type anymore. But just dictate a voice memo.
Yeah. Why do people perceive electronic music as like sci-fi or futuristic?
Yeah.
That's also like been perpetuated for so long. I'm surprised that it's still perceived that way.
Well, it is, yeah. I mean, of course, it's like a cultural paradigm, and because like it was like the newest sounds people could make, so that's what they chose to like use for like sci-fi soundtracks. But I think it still is the newest sounds we can make. Just, you know, like if you want to make a futuristic sound, still probably. You know, that's a pretty good option, yeah. So, I don't know. It's definitely, but it is our friend, our old collaborator, Matt Carlson, made the sort of joke, not really a joke, remark that people think it's music from outer space, but it's actually music from Earth. You know?
Yeah.
Like say it's like from outer space.
Certain movies use classical music in space to emphasize the connection to this is music from Earth, and this is a sign of how far we've come. That we have this old-fashioned music that you might not listen to in your everyday life, but it's a symbol of our progress, and like how majestic and beautiful and wide the entire expanse of space is, like similar to an orchestra, that how many sounds can be I guess similar to like a control panel, that a conductor that controls an orchestra, that writes a piece of music for an orchestra, has so many options at their disposal.
I think it's interesting that most like interfaces, whether it's like even on the computer, it still kind of mimics the physical. Like we haven't kind of, you know, like switches, toggle toggle bars.
Knobs and sliders.
There's some. It's like, I guess because what we're used to, we haven't got to the next stage yet. We realize we kind of, you know, you don't need that anymore when you're interacting with this, but it's so much easier for us to kind of map it like mentally, like what things do when it's like that.
I mean, even like if we were in a completely, or like an environment somehow that was completely divorced from physicality, like only our minds in a completely virtual environment, and even if like we grew up like from infancy in a completely virtual environment, I wonder how far we would get away from like physical metaphor, because like how like inherent to like the way our minds function is it? I don't know.
Well, how would our experience be if we were in that state? I mean, we would probably program it so that we had some kind of reality.
Well, there would have to be consistency in order to like function, and then your brain would like base its like whole thing on whatever that consistency was.
Maybe the first gen would have a lot of like built-in realities that mimicked our physical experience, but then eventually that would be like programmed out because it would become less and less.
Do you see that happening in like new media art. So like like everybody trying to create gravity and
Or like simulated physics.
yeah, simulated
Yeah.
physics. But
And
then
video games.
eventually like it starts to like break away from that once the algorithm is written, then you start manipulating the algorithm to just see what will happen. So yeah, maybe it would be like that. It would be like we would try to recreate this world's physics, but then eventually
Right.
break away from it.
But
But
it's-
there's always some kind of limitations that, like, you know, I mean, it's pretty hypothetical to like try to think about how human consciousness would exist in a totally virtual environment as a culture.
Would be-
But there must end up being some constraints that then your culture is built around those constraints rather than the constraints that we have now as physical
But it,
inhabitants of
but
this world.
literally psychedelic to, you know, think of like, yeah, just what kind of interfaces a completely non-physical person might use. It's nice.
But physical or non-physical, it's all about one question: is what is reality, and what are our perception, and the relationship with our perception and reality. Reality is maybe the consequences of our perception.
Mm-hmm.
So we made the world as we are projecting it, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's very interesting what the next generation will be with interfaces and what is the reality. Reality maybe will have another definition, englobing the virtual interfaces. It's physical or non-physical. It's all reality finally.
And it's all physical in the end, anyways.
Yes.
Even if it's virtual, it's still being
Yeah.
run on
Yeah.
servers and
Yeah,
using mineral.
It's true. No.
That's the paradox.
It's
Very
basically
interesting,
the same thing, but I guess the whole question comes from like, you know, we use these physical metaphors in software, so like, where, yeah, like I guess at what point would we stop using physical metaphors? Maybe never, because maybe it's always like in some way a physical metaphor, or but I don't know.
Like going back to what you guys said, how you guys still use like when you guys model something, you guys are still using like physics for gravity and for light. I could kind of imagine if there's no gravity, but I mean, you wouldn't be able to see anything without if you didn't have any light.
Right.
So we wouldn't
Yeah.
have any like.
But
Well,
you could
just
use.
What I meant when I said that is that like in the scenes that we're modeling, we we don't actually use gravity, but we put structures on a plane often in a way that like sort of like
stuck to something.
represents a gravity situation, and like with light, like we'll often have like things lit from
we
above,
use like
for
a
example.
sky that lights everything, whereas we could just not have a light source and have the object emit light from
Yeah,
the
like-
base.
Yeah. like-
Internally.
The
That it
visuals I
could have an
do,
irrational
they don't have a
shadow
light
compared to
source.
its structure.
They're just
Yeah.
colors on a screen.
Exactly,
basically.
exactly. And so like basically the lighting version of orthographic perspective in a way where it's just like there is no light source, just the thing itself is light because it's on a monitor, you know.
Yeah, it's weird because I mean I don't know how if it wasn't represented, you know, on a screen, I've no idea how it would be represented, like
Like an object, like
yeah,
sculpture
or like
that
or
we
like
make? Well, it
anything
could be
like
represented all in code if you can understand the
Yeah,
code
exactly.
and imagine the sculpture when you look at the code.
In the same way that you read a book. You use your imagination, that you read the words
Yeah.
in
It's
the
true.
book. That's a code.
You could
in
get to
itself.
that level.
Right. Well, the computer is
'Cause
basically
it
imagining
is all
for you.
just zeros and ones, you know.
Yeah, the computer hallucinates,
Computer hallucinates
for you,
it, yeah, so that.
so you don't have to.
yeah, wouldn't that be mad if like you go to a show and people just like stick a USB cable into themselves. They render it themselves
Would be great.
or something like that.
I think, yeah, maybe we'll get there. I feel like everyone's pretty much
We're pretty close to augmented reality, just
Yep.
like things, computers in your glasses. That,
right,
I mean,
People
watches
get-
are pretty close.
right.
Or
But
get their phones
bypassing
Even the
and-
phone is already.
phone.
Yeah.
yeah,
It's basically
bypassing.
better than like a tricorder, the Star Trek.
Mm. Yeah, but just the fantasy of like not using sensory organs to still perceive, I think is like what you're saying, which is like so interesting because then you don't have to have the limitations of like what colors, like what light spectrum you can see, or like do you have hearing loss, or like what frequencies can you hear, that could get really interesting.
Because one of the things you can't really imagine it because it's not really, it's outside of, what we know, I suppose. Like, yeah, what would that be like?
Yeah,
What we think we
Yeah.
know.
totally.
Mm.
Yeah, it's almost meaningless to even talk about it, really. but still a cool idea.
Yeah, I suppose your imagination would, at some point, have to tie back into a lived experience. That I have dreams sometimes where, like, I can taste something, like if I'm particularly hungry, and like I imagine that taste, but it's not like it's not like going to a restaurant. It's like, wow, I've never had this before. I'm remembering something that I've tasted. And at a certain point, I wonder if even imaginations as fantastic and unbound as they are, that they're still limited by our
Yeah, like when
our meat world.
we know that
Absolutely.
we know that other animals have like maybe different senses that we have, like can see other spectrums of light that we can't see. But then the way we like demonstrate that is by like creating, like, imagine like a heat map or something. We're still using colors that we can see. So we're just like recreating what we think they see, but using like
Translator.
things that we can sense.
Yeah.
So it's not exactly
Putting it into like a way that we can interpret it, which is still kind of
you know,
false in a way.
Yeah. Based on our own reality.
Yeah.
That's life.
Stuck in our own reality.
Like pitching down like the sounds of bats or something.
Yeah. So, well, that's weird. I mean, you can hear bats.
You
but
can, but
maybe not
right.
all the frequencies.
yeah.
Their reality is not really imaginable. There's some like consciousness question that's like, that uses like bats as like the like just like how we wouldn't be able to imagine like what their reality would be like, because it's not like, you can kind of say, oh, it'll be like this, you're blind, but like that's not really, that's like, very sort of, I guess, clumsy
Totally.
sort of
like,
way to describe
right.
like, their
perception of space or something.
experience, or
Totally.
That if a bat knows where something is, do they have to visualize it, with
Good question.
their echolocation?
and that's the thing, it's like
Like,
not,
how does that
it's completely
like
different, I
structure
think. Yeah.
in their internal cognition of the world?
It's not so far from the beginning of our conversation about SFI, science fiction, and Earl, and the consciousness of maybe the computer, what is the limit of what we call artificial intelligence, maybe, and it's very interesting what it's become, the limits of ourselves and what the computer are trying to. So about consciousness
Yeah.
or not for algorithms and that.
Yeah, I guess like our way to expand our senses and consciousness is through technology, right? Like we can sense things that we can't sense with our body because we've built sensors that can see them for us, basically, and then interpret it into something that we understand.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a way of expanding our own senses through, technology.
Yeah.
It's true. It always has to be translated, like
Back
to
into
the
our-
limits of our
Yeah.
meat bodies. But
Yeah. So people also.
The other option is like organically and chemically altering your perceptions, of course. Like whenever you drink beer, that you have different perceptions of the world. That
Somehow we always.
it's not that uncommon, you know.
Right, sure.
Somehow we always touch on alcohol in these podcasts. Somehow. Yeah, that's true. We do like alter our states chemically as well.
Yeah. Or through like
Coffee.
practice,
Coffee.
like mental practices.
Yeah. Brain is a tool, actually. Maybe brain is. In a way, reality is what we want reality to be. No, it's
Maybe.
projection or no.
yes
I
and
don't-
no. I mean, I think so for sure. But there is reality. I think.
Yeah.
Well, reality is what. Yeah, it's a funny one to. I guess consensus reality is what we all can agree on.
And reality changes as we push it. I mean, like you can change it yourself or with others, but that doesn't mean it's necessarily like
Yeah.
a reflection, a perfect reflection of your desire.
No, certainly not. This is a little bit like, or tangential a little bit, but we were just talking about walking here, how like being in Asia, we've been experiencing like how like walking down the street, you might see something that we would never see like in like where we've lived before, you know, and so like our perception is sort of really breaking down a little bit, where like your brain sort of like you look at something,
Your frame of reference of just how things are done.
Yeah.
or like your eyes focus on something, your brain starts guessing what you're looking at.
You know, your brain's always filling in the details between things with what it assumes is going to be there. But then when everything's different than it usually is, it's making mistakes and imagining things that aren't there.
So yeah, I've been like kind of like hallucinating a lot, just looking at stuff on the street where you're just like guessing a lot of different things of what you're looking at, and eventually, you know, and maybe it's something that really doesn't make sense to you, you know? It's been pretty interesting. Like we were walking by this one tree like for, you know, weeks, and I thought it was wrapped in fabric, and I realized eventually it has like dresses hanging from it that are like in sort of mannequin like frames just hanging from this tree. I don't know.
But you like couldn't see it before because it was just too insane.
Yeah, I like literally couldn't recognize that it was dresses.
Yeah, I think it's for like some spirit or something. Yeah.
Oh, so cool.
Yeah, that happened to me on a trip to Vietnam. We went like up into a mountain town by a taxi, and as we're driving up this mountain, it's getting like foggier and foggier, and I realized we're actually driving into the clouds, and by the time we were in the town, I couldn't see more than like 2 meters in front of me, and it's completely white out. And so we like checked into our hotel, and the hotel was like the condensation is just dripping off the walls. They have to come out like every 20 minutes to like squeegee the floor because it's just water everywhere. It's so humid. And then like I get in my room and open the window, and the cloud just like pouring in
Oh my
to
God.
the window. It's like so thick. And so we prepare ourselves to like go on a walk, and we went outside, And by then it's nighttime, and we've never been in this town before, so like we don't know what's there. And as we're walking, your mind just starts to fill in the street. Like you have to see something. Like you just imagine, like you don't see it, but you just imagine what kind of buildings are just beyond the fog. Like based on what you see around you, you're like, okay, I see this building, so I know it probably extends here, and oh, there's probably another building there, and the street goes this way, and you're imagining the street turning or something. Your mind is just like going like full on, like creating like a scene in front of you, and every few steps you take, you are wrong, and then you're wrong again, and you're wrong again, and so like, everything is like a surprise.
The way a door implies a room behind it, a curtain implies a window behind it, and when you pull it apart and just find a wall, it's like, well, what now?
Wow.
And your mind is just like recreating, like recalculating constantly.
Totally.
It's one of the most psychedelic experiences of my life.
Wow.
For sure. It's like, wow.
Yeah, totally. I relate to that.
Yeah. It's crazy.
I really like this author, Greg Egan, sci-fi author.
Greg Egan?
Yeah, and I just finished one of his books the other day that deals with this kind of idea. It's set in the near future, and it's at a conference where people who are working on the TOE, theory of everything, and the scientists are like closing in on like the final like theory of everything. But there's all these like cults popping up and one of these cults, turns out maybe accurately, believes that whoever comes up with the TOE is malleable. It could be different things, but once you find it, then it is it.
That the universe conforms to the
like what you're saying,
once
yeah.
it's created.
And it's like, this quantum physics idea, like that also that like reality kind of changes when you observe it. So it's like until the TOE is, not found, then it still like could be all these different things. And so some people
collapse the wave function.
They see this one TOE is getting close, but they don't like what it is, so they're trying to like assassinate the scientists, because they're like, that's not the TOE we want to.
Because
we
find
want
a better TOE.
Because they don't like that it restricts the universe to one universe. They want one that has multiple universes.
That's great.
Yeah.
I need to finish the three-body problem. That's got a similar theme.
Yeah, I guess if everybody believed that it was true, then it might be true, yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. Yeah.
It's an interesting debate.
Weird.
Or like the TOE is basically like the theory that combines like classical physics with quantum physics.
Well, it does do that, yeah. But also
Everything.
ties up all the loose ends, yeah.
It's an interesting metaphor for like legalism and like laws in a society, that these things exist as rules because we make them as rules, but that's not necessarily the same as laws of physics. Laws of physics are observed and extrapolate on that, even if something doesn't necessarily make intuitive sense, it still exists in where...
Ideally, I guess, but then over time you maybe uncover inherent laws that people had just assumed, so that they put it in like fact, but it's actually a cultural assumption.
Yeah, always through the cultural context. It's I think it defines sometimes the reality differently.
Yeah, that's the other thing we can't really escape, not just the senses, but also the cultural context, because that's like just part of the software that we interact with the world or whatever.
Totally.
With or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, the operating system, so to speak.
Yeah, that's the other one. It's not possible to imagine what it's like without that, because we only interact through that. as well. Like,
Totally.
That's why drugs are cool. Hack the OS. Just kidding.
Just kidding.
But these are metaphors that are tied to the things that we use daily. If we had this conversation in the 60s, like they might relate to the psychedelia aspect of it, but the idea of what's an operating system, like why would we see the world through software? We see the
Right.
world through our eyes.
Right.
Like
Except for
like
the really
maybe
deep heads
maybe
in the
you
60s.
could
They
have
were
a
into the
right.
computers.
Maybe your metaphor would be as in like the theater of a movie. That
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
contemporary
totally.
metaphor.
Yeah, what will be the next one after computers?
Clicking rocks together.
Yeah, probably.
It's like when you click a rock really fast.
Stefan, you're doing before like a lot of meditation as well.
A lot of is not a lot of, but sometimes I feel that I have to slow down my mind because I'm a mental guy, too much French guy. not only French, but I think I'm a mental guy, so I have to accept it and to
inherently
deal with it and to learn from it. And sometimes that's why I'm practicing sport or freediving, or I did some martial arts too, in jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, which is wow, a good
Thailand,
good school.
one of the global capitals of martial arts.
Yep, I know. So the body is my temple, and the body is my teacher, in a way, of calming my mental.
That could be the next step past computers, that using your mind to interface directly with the organs of your body that you might like, that might operate in its automatically in its own sense. Like when you become aware of your heartbeat, like how much further can you go? Can you be aware of your stomach digesting? Can you be aware of the lungs pumping oxygen, like the blood that flows through your circulatory system, like every single nerve or hair?
Yep. I think it's all about the power you give to your mental to control, I don't know, emotions and everything. That's why I think the best thing for me is freediving. Freediving is you have to be focused on your body, every part of your body, and sometimes when you took some pictures of fishes or whatever, the mental is just
tunnel vision.
Yeah, focused on this fucking fish, and even if the breathing need to go up, it's okay because the body knows its job. So that's a good balance for me, good harmony. So yeah, the body. It's our spaceship too, no? First
totally.
one. So keep the body healthy and try to yeah.
Eject.
Yes.
Copy paste.
Yeah, copy paste. Yeah. But there's so many versions of ourselves. I think it's what kind of version you want to be at this time. It's like maybe like a game. I want to be a sound artist. I want to be a teacher. I want. Who is the high? Who is? But yeah, maybe I'm many things. More complex. So that's why it's very interesting to meet people, because sometimes people makes like a mirror, and I can see a little part of me.
Oh, yeah, of
It's
course.
people, so I learn. I learn to be more humble, maybe more wise. I don't know, but yeah. And art makes me still like a kid in front of his spaceship. I don't know. And if I can play with other people, it's sort of accomplishment for me to share my game, to create a collaborative game. Life is a game, sort of. Have fun.
Not just capture your own imagination, but bring everybody else into it as well.
There's a very playful aspect, I think,
yes,
to a lot of
playful.
your work.
Yeah. Playful. That's why I guess I'm how do you say épanoui? As I'm a teacher, I get I really enjoy to be a teacher. For this aspect, to kids reminds me how to be a kid again and again and again. From learning to be, I don't know what, but to remind me some aspect of myself that maybe sometimes I forget. Spontaneous and just don't limit the thing, express yourself and spontaneous. Yeah. And also to observe kids who are learning things. Same for me as an adult when I speak with people through certain way of it's my limit through my identity, family, and etc. Many, how do you say, filters? And sometimes I have to be aware of those filters to get what reality or what the other person is really, without all my filters. Judging always.
When you're creating, do you feel like what you create or what you do has like an intention or goal behind it, or do you just do things because you like to do them? Like the things you create, do they? I guess for
like,
all of you.
I guess like why make art?
Yeah.
But also, when you start, do you have a destination in mind? Or does the destination change as you're going there?
Sometimes the format of the destination is fixed. Like, I'm going to plan a sculpture installation, so it has to be addressing the physicality of the room. Or I'm going to make a video, it's going to be a video, but then within that, I feel that it's the process is important. I go through many visions of what the final thing is, but never with the idea that that's actually what I'm headed toward. But always the act of improvising as I make it is the part that is important, I think.
Yeah, it's really like process-oriented, like what you're saying about walking through the fog.
Exactly.
And hallucinating what's in front of you, except that like if what you hallucinated actually did affect what was in front of you.
Or the difference between reality and desire, that your desire can shape reality, but it's never,
do you think
whether it's a one-to-one reflection depends on.
Ideally, like obviously circumstantially you usually need to have some kind of end product, but do you think like ideally would you have ever like a completed project? Would you have complete projects, or would it always be?
Well, I think the cool thing about
Like if it were
completed projects is just like that then you share it with people and then you see it in this other way, and that makes you go to the next project with like some other ideas. But you know, it's like, in some ways I think of it all as one ongoing project, like nothing's ever finished. It's just like, that was a moment where I shared that thing, but then it's always like, it's never like, okay, I finally finished it, my masterpiece. It's more like, okay, now it's time to like show what I finally got to, and then I'm gonna keep going with that in mind.
Yeah, like crystallizing it and then sort of framing it for yourself or other people. It's like an important part of the feedback of learning. But yeah, it's never, of course, it's never perfect, and you're never like done.
And sharing the work becomes just a capsule of the piece, the time you spent on it.
Yeah.
This is the game. The game is to do things.
Right.
And to put words on it. It's an art project, but maybe our lives is the best art project. To be in love is a project too. So it's all about projects and activities. Art is an activity, and and sometimes the result of this activity is an exhibition of installation. And I see things like this. So sometimes very simple thing. I want to do something, okay, I do, and then is it over? I don't really know, but maybe I have to take like to respect time and space. This will be the end, and money, and this is the project. Why did you do this thing? And I can explain, but why more? There's no more. It's over like this. It's okay. Next step. Be maybe an extension of this, maybe like episodes or series of. But yeah, I think maybe it's like food. Oh, kitchen. You do a very good thing. It's ephemeral. Next.
I wish we would have someone in this conversation disagree with that idea.
About
like, no, like about like it's all sort of a continuous process, and you finish the piece just to
Well, I think
learn.
it's different for different people.
Because some people would probably not
If
feel
you were
that.
a soldier, it would be very regimented. Then.
No, another artist.
I know what you mean.
Because
Well, I mean, there's not only artists in the world.
I know, but that's not what I mean. I like, we identify our practice as being like really like evolutionary, like this, what Brenna already said, basically. But some people, I think of their work being really project-based, where each project is sort of like, the idea is that they do a project, get it perfect or something like that, and then the next project is like not necessarily from...
like a new birth.
Yeah.
So I would like to hear that perspective.
And also some artists, extreme one, were so conceptual that they, maybe like Marcel Duchamp, who did some works, and then for them it was the game to make like this piece of art, and then back to our normal activities, and it was just to make an activity, a piece, art project, then no further project. Because for me it's quite conceptual. Like I want to do 5 art project, then I go to have some fun, like
go play
music.
chess.
Exactly.
Yeah, some like record labels do that. They set out with the idea to produce an exact number of albums.
Exactly.
And then
same.
I'm trying to remember the name of
Then disappear.
This label specifically. I'm thinking of like I think in the late 90s. I'm not going to remember.
Which country?
Something like Motu. It's American. It's like Machine Drum was on it. But anyway, they did this. They said like, we're going to make 100 albums. And so they made 100 albums, like various artists, and then after that, it's finished. They dissolved the label.
It's a concept, yeah.
The label's gone. And it was really like, the stuff on that label was like really good. So in some way, you kind of like wish they hadn't done that because you want to see it continue. But of course, like in another way.
In truth, all things are limited. Then.
Yeah, well, also all those people went on to continue to do what they were doing anyway in another form. So it's not like it was always lost once the label had
Yeah, I
finished.
understand. It's about protocols. They give one protocol, as I did for the hut, for example. 5 hours, only stuff, material here, and my screwdriver, and myself, and this is my little protocol. Then I made this project. So I understand for the 100 album, it was a protocol.
Yeah, maybe it's a way of like motivating yourself too,
Yeah.
by giving yourself limitation.
Mm.
It's easier. Maybe it's easier to start doing something when you like set a limitation to it, and you say, "Oh, I'm only gonna do this for like X amount of time or X number of times, and then it's gonna be finished." And maybe it's easier to like push yourself
Yes.
forward that way.
As an art teacher, when I give some works to do to the kids, limits are the main limits of time, of course, but limits of materials or whatever. It's sort of very interesting things to observe. Then when you have less limits, it's more difficult for us, for them, because yeah. So okay, 10 minutes, scissor, paper only. Okay, tack with a sentence or I don't know how you say a lesson. So you have to do this, and we'll see in 10 minutes. Sir, can I do this? Just do 10 minutes, and then 10 minutes we observe, and this is the pedagogy of constructing the mind of the art process of creating, doing things, observing. Okay, it's art. It's not. What do you think? It is. Okay, it is not. Okay, debate. And so yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah. Okay. Why? Can you explain me why and what is beauty? Very good question. It's debate and debate. And some kids said to me, "Sir, there's no limit to your to the art." I say, "Oh, interesting. Can you explain?" Everything is a pretext for the kids to speak about his activities. Yeah, and put words on it. Beautiful, art, not art, cultural, political. Because sometimes we see every time we see artworks, and yeah, it's very very interesting. Sometimes kids are like resistance to say that this work of art is interesting, but ugly. Ugly means not interesting. Like we're getting back to the experimental music. Yeah, it's not harmony. It's not harmony, so it's not music. It's like a basic thing, and I have to deconstruct this kind of beliefs.
Yeah,
to make them maybe more free to put words and to
something has rhythm
open,
but no melody that people would consider music.
Well, actually, that's funny you mentioned that, because I have like personally I have a very narrow definition of what is musical, and I don't think that something that lacks rhythm and melody is musical. I think that's not music for me, even though most of what I make, it's not, to me it's not music. So, but I understand, like it's just a
between music
What do you
and
consider
sound.
it? It's just not music.
Just sound, but it doesn't make it like any less enjoyable or less like listenable or less like anything really. It's just my own personal definition of what is music, and I understand like other people have a broader definition of it, but I just decided one day that that's what it means to me.
Yeah, that it's a personal definition, and I kind of was thinking how people experience time as cultural but also personal. that a student will experience times how many minutes until class ends and we can go out for recess. That a teacher might think how many days or months until the semester ends, and we go on vacation. A businessman would think by quarters. An athlete would think by years or seasons. That a farmer would think by harvest seasons. That a musician would think by albums they produce. An artist would think of their time as the time they spent in one city, or the time they spent working on one specific project. Or that when they change their style entirely, when something personally significant happened that fundamentally altered them.
I think somehow I needed a way to like separate music from every sound, because I really like sound. I like just like when I'm walking, I like listening to things. I think for some reason I needed to separate music from every other sound in the world. Otherwise, everything becomes music, and it's like, I don't know if like the word music loses its meaning at that point, or it just becomes like too broad in my mind. Maybe I had to like set some boundary to it. Not sure. But and then like lately I've been trying to like define art in my head as well. And again, it's like personal, and I haven't quite found it. But that's another one where like if you want to believe everything is art, that can be true. But for me, it's like I need some kind of form around it or something.
Well,
So I'm like constantly questioning like, what is art doing, or like what is the purpose of it, or what are people's intentions with it, or why is it made, or what is it exactly?
There's
I
a
still
friend.
don't know.
Yeah,
I still don't have my own
There's so much,
definition of it.
so much definition of. There's
I'm really curious, like why people create, or why they think they create, and yeah.
Why they think they do and why they really do.
what society thinks I do.
Yeah.
How is it?
Romantic.
Yeah, exactly.
Ask Bukowski. Some quotes about it.
Bukowski?
Yeah.
I'm sure he has some good ones.
No, it's not.
Do you have it in your pocket?
Oh, you came prepared.
No, it's not on this paper, I guess. It is.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, Bukowski's style. Can you remember who you were before the world told you who you should be? It's kind of something like.
I thought it would
What
be
is that?
more colorful.
I remember when I was a little kid though, and I'd like have naps, and then when I'd wake up, I'd have to remember like where I was and who I was. I kind of remember that strange process of coming back and just being like in a room, and then like I don't know where I was before, but like having to go, okay, you are in this place. This is like you. I mean, I don't do that anymore, but I remember when I was a little kid, I used to do that.
I remember
reconstruction,
psyching myself
ego
into that as a
permanence.
kid too. Like I remember certain moments as a child being like, I'm here, or like kind of going outside my body in this way, where I can still like remember how it felt at that moment, because it was like such a specific moment of like heightened perception or something.
Maybe we are our Nexus 6 from Blade Runner.
I don't know.
Nexus
Oh.
6
Oh, you mean
with implants.
Replicants? Yeah.
Replicants with implants.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It's my souvenir. It's my memory. You think so?
You're gonna have to like cut everyone open to find out.
Okay, camera's off.
Right click, see properties. It's not a person.
Reformat.
It's kind of way of doing sounds project too. C'est the visual aspect, to how do you say, I'm a cinephile guy. I watch many movies, especially science fiction one. So sometimes when I make music, I consider it music sound. I consider it like sort of soundtrack, maybe. That's the protocol. Maybe a soundtrack I set for 2 hours, and then I projecting myself in improvising, and that's why sometimes there's some dialogues and some I bought a little synth, so that was a very surprising thing, because I get this the same little Casio SK1 when I was 15. So I just bought a second one in Bangkok, and I will do some stuff like this. It reminds me of my childhood and some kind of a childhood reconstructing things, and about memories or not memories, like yeah, you can imagine. So it's a sort of a soundtrack.
Do you imagine a science fiction story as you play?
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes. But it's like fragments. Reality first, because the present is my only reality, and then fragment of memories. And, yeah.
I read science fiction all the time.
Oops.
That's my favorite art, I guess. Like I feel like I don't really look at art anymore, but I read so much sci-fi that's kind of like my main influence. And I feel lately I've been thinking about, like, I want to try to make narratives, science fiction narratives, because I think it's so interesting.
Impactful.
But it's something I can't do, actually. Like, it's not natural for me as an art form. And so I've been thinking about that question of
written narrative?
Yeah, like a written narrative. I feel like my artwork is so influenced by science fiction narratives, but what comes out is not narrative at all. But I've been kind of going back and forth in my mind about wanting to try to sort of do narratives within it, but then I think maybe it's stronger not to, and to have it be this kind of glimpses in my mind.
Okay. Yeah. Sometimes I think we are a big box with every influences that we have since we are kids.
Sure.
We are the result of
Just imagine like trying to collage a book, like the way you do with video art, like mashing images, but like just taking pages of a book and like reading bits of them and like piecing them together to create a new book. I'm sure people have done this, but I've never thought of it before. Sounds interesting.
Yeah. Cut up.
That's
Cut up?
Yeah.
Create an entirely new
What's his
narrative
name?
out of increased
Burroughs.
vocabulary.
William S. Burroughs.
He did that?
He sort of is the one who claims precedence on the cut up.
I'd imagine a lot of artists are inspired by a type of art that they feel or that are incapable of creating, that they very much like to, that they do create it, but it's not as well received as what they're known for, what they're famous for. Like, we've been playing Death Stranding, a video game, and he's like one of the few. Hideo Kojima is like one of the few like video game developers that's often like recognized as an auteur, just because his games are weird and that there's not much like it, but he also takes his inspiration from movies. But I could anyone can clearly tell that the way that he does his pacing, that he could never edit something down into 120 minutes, 180 minutes. That just can't be his style, no matter how much he loves the art form.
I see. I see. Nice. That's an interesting.
Yeah.
That's a nice point. Yeah. Totally. I think that makes sense to me. I feel like artists, most people love a lot of different forms, but you have, fluency in maybe not all the forms that you appreciate in terms of what you can actually make.
Also, the generation, I'm from the 80s, so it's kind of aesthetic world for me. Atari stuff, and so it's conditioning sometimes my aesthetics too, my way of thinking. The 80s, yeah, kind of nostalgia or.
Yeah, the pop culture. I mean,
Yeah.
I latch on to your guys' work specifically because it very much references the early 90s
Sure.
internet of how bright and colorful things are, that it's interactive when you hover over it, that it animates while it's.
Sure. Yeah.
It captures my imagination. That it comes from my childhood.
Yeah, and about imagination, the fact that I grew up on a small island, it was a lot of projection of American culture, European culture, Indian culture, South Africa, Madagascar. It's a very projecting thing. So my imagination was very full of everything I could get like this before internet. That's important to say too. Yeah, the importance of fanzines, graph-zines, pop culture, music, a lot, radio, before internet. And I remember I didn't have internet in my childhood.
Was there a music community when you were growing up?
Well, it's a normal European childhood, but in a small island, the tropical vibes, and mixed people, Indian, African, all
Was
together
there, like,
around.
a record store that sold the fanzines and like.
Oh,
people who
no
hung out
store.
there or
No, I
something?
think there were only friends who went to Europe and came back with some stuff and
I see.
some cassettes and some CDs.
That'd be an interesting discussion with someone who grew up before international air travel.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
How?
Yeah, I'm really interested in radio, and that's like another form of like early chat rooms. Basically, people just get on a radio, like, "Hey, who's there? Where are you? What are you doing?"
Oh, ham radio sets.
Ham radios, yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
Dying culture. There's still people that do it, but not much.
You know, the number stations.
The numbers.
Like,
Oh yeah.
It's like people are like
Covert communications.
Yeah, but for who you don't
They're
know,
like
for
radio
themselves,
signals
or
of people just reading numbers.
and codes and.
Before it was
Never heard of
implied
it.
that they
Very
had to
strange,
be
very
state
creepy
actors
and
because
very
only a
interesting.
state
I sampled
could
some
operate
and I put on my looper.
They're meant to be like government or military communications, but to hide the code of what they're saying, they just constantly read numbers. So when they have something to communicate, they'll just insert it into the normal broadcast.
Oh, so you hear like a certain code that means start listening now or something, and
Yeah,
then,
but to mask it, they just constantly read
Oh,
off numbers.
that's great. Cool.
Interesting.
I never heard of this.
And I think they still,
Number
I
station.
think they still have. I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can
Cool.
give you some.
Great.
I have some. I have downloaded lots of them.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I'm surprised I hadn't heard of that.
I think it's a lot around like Europe.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, not only, I think, Japanese. And,
Yeah.
yeah, I think, yeah, I remember.
There were quite a few in Alaska as well.
Mm.
Wow. Are you from
Where he's
Alaska?
from.
Oh, okay.
No, I've researched number stations before. I'm from California.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I
Hey,
remember a
West
lot of
Coast.
them think it's for like the Cold War or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
It started
yes.
from there. Some sort of
And that's where it's implied that only a state actor could broadcast something on such a large scale and keep broadcasting it, not get taken down by the government inside, like an FCC.
Mm.
But sometimes they just pop up and they disappear again. Those could be
There's probably like
signals
copy
embedded
cats.
in another country. That's
There's probably people that just copy, like mimic it for
True,
fun
true.
as well, or try to.
Really
This is a
fun.
concept. This is an
Inserting false
interesting concept.
information.
Is it like a human who's like paid to sit there and just like read numbers?
Yeah,
before,
Yep.
yes,
Yeah.
before it was, yes.
Great
And then
job.
like around the 80s, like
That was
they
your job.
invented like the same way that
God.
you
Just,
hear
yeah,
automated messages at train
Listen,
stations.
listening.
Yeah.
Just stay away.
Much more sensible.
on and the voice sometimes is very creepy, very
Yeah.
interesting.
Well, if you were reading numbers for like 9 hours straight,
Yeah, exactly.
your voice might become creepy.
Yeah, you become a pretty creepy person.
And you talk with people with codes
Hmm?
1, 2, 2, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 2,
Oh.
1, 2.
Right.
Like,
But also because it's a coded message, any emotion implies
Well, they,
the content of the message, which is exactly what you don't want at all.
Mm.
So
I'm sure
to
it's
stay as neutral as like if you're panicking like while you're reading out the numbers like 3, 4, 7, like well this is urgent. Clearly we should be listening in and trying to interpret what this means.
Yeah. That's what gave it away.
she
And about-
just had too much coffee that day. 7, 5.
And about frequencies, there's also an interesting case. Is a whale on the planet, which is called a sad whale, because she is the only animal which produce frequency,
Vocalizes as-
vocalizes, but only on one frequency that no whales can hear. So she's a lonely whale thing.
Isn't that just because
That
of
she-
their size, though?
No, she
No.
can't talk to other whales.
So
That she
she's-
can't.
Oh.
Just like this one
she's alone.
individual whale that can't communicate with other whales.
Oh.
Same whales communicate with each other, elephants communicate with each other.
So it's like a person who can't speak.
Exactly, who speak only one language and cannot understand the other language.
Hmm.
Or just a person who can't make vocal sound.
Yeah.
Or,
Vocalize.
I mean, closer
So
Could be
that-
someone that
right.
creates
That's
their
a-
own language. That
There's an American boat, a military boat, I think, who create an association to produce some feedback to the whale to simulate another way
Wow.
to say
How
to
did
the
it
whale
turn
you are
out?
not alone. And
Did they
very
already do it?
interesting. Yeah.
And did they manage to?
I don't remember
Oh.
precisely, but it's
She
an interesting
blinked
story.
twice, that means she understands.
Oh, yeah. So
But-
I'm just trying to understand, I'm clear what we're talking about. Humans discovered that there's this one individual whale
Yes.
that can only make one frequency,
Yeah.
and the other whales cannot hear this frequency.
Yeah, sort of, or they didn't answer. They don't answer.
Oh.
So the whale is going through the many oceans
I
to.
see.
Yeah.
Oh, so like biologists discovered it or something? Interesting.
Yeah.
They probably found a whale that was like wandering by itself, and then they were like, "Why is this whale by itself?" And they tried to study it.
Hmm.
Oh.
I would guess.
Yeah. A rare good deed.
Um,
Reminds you of a friend?
no. Oh, I don't know much about whales. About whale sound.
Every year in winter we have the season of whales around the island, and I, as a freediver, I've already swim. Just touch me. It's very impressive, and yeah, some whales can kill you with one sonar.
With a
Yeah.
fart.
Yeah, because it's they like dolphins. They always scan constantly. They scan your body. So fear, stress, and they feel if before the human woman knows she's pregnant, they can detect embryos and everything. And
Like ultrasound.
Yeah, and with their sonar, in danger, to protect they can emit a very violent vibration that can scramble your stomachs and everything. Yeah.
Do we have we created a protective suit
Mm.
to guard that?
It's going through. I think it's
Low frequency.
it's so powerful.
You'd be completely surrounding you. I mean,
Yeah.
It's very low.
Through water.
I think the only barrier would be like
Leave the water.
an extra seal of air or something that
This,
like a layer of a vacuum or
Oh.
air. That would,
the distances between two whales can be huge, impressive. Yeah, only through water.
How big was that whale that you swam next to?
What is your question?
How large was the whale?
Bigger than longest. So it was almost adult male. Yeah, and it was that's why I know, because he was playing with us. Yes, just go around, and there was a lady who began to panic because the whale. You just have to enjoy and to be But she is panicked because she was not used to be so close to such a big animal, and the eye.
Wow, must be amazing.
Oh my god.
Wow.
Wow.
Selfie.
Wow.
And the skin is dangerous because she has many shells on it, and if you come,
Very sharp.
can
barnacles. That's what
Just like a ship.
Wow. Guys, wrap it up.
We did it, yeah. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
We covered everything.
Yeah.
Should we
Yeah, pretty broad conversation.
probably go on for more,
went
but
there,
it's been a really interesting one.
Yeah,
cool.
thanks so much for
Thank you
having us.
us.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks for